Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Welcome to my podcast, where we are going to talk about a lifestyle with dogs and throw in a few life lessons along the way. Whether you're a hound hunter, bird dog enthusiast, running setters, pointers, retrievers, or a flat-out running dog junkie, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Heath Hyatt, a certified law enforcement canine trainer with over 3 decades of personal and professional training and handling experience. It's time for me to pay it forward. So grab your leads, lace up those boots, and come and join me on this lifelong process of teaching, training, and learning. Are you looking to unlock your dog's full potential and give them the best nutrition possible for peak performance? Then look no further. Inukshuk has what you're looking for. Inukshuk's nutrient-dense formulas are crafted to keep your dog's energy high and performance top-notch. Packed with premium proteins and essential fats, Inukshuk delivers the balanced nutrition your dog needs to thrive. From hunting dogs to police canines, Inukshuk is trusted by professionals. Give your dog the power of peak performance with Inukshuk professional dog food. We always say we don't want to talk about the weather, and I think every podcast we do, somebody talks about the weather. But a week without power. Today, I got home last night from another volleyball tournament in Tennessee, and I got to tell you, like this one, so we've been on no power for a week, and I'm like, okay, we're going to a hotel, we're going to have power, we're going to be able to take a shower, it'll be great, right? So we get down there, and on Saturday night, we played late, the girls played late, like we didn't get done until after 9:30, like it was a late. So we get back, everybody gets a shower, we get in bed, and I think I died. Like, I really feel like I died in bed. And at 1:07, the most hideous and heinous noise you've ever heard in your life starts going off. And then this voice starts talking, and it's like, you need to evacuate. You need to evacuate. Do not use the elevator. Use the stairs and go to the lobby or outside. So something happened and the fire alarm went off, which I think it was some little turd pulled the fire alarm. We never did get a straight story on it. So outside in the rain for 30 minutes, they let everybody back in the building, in the hotel, whatever, conference center. We was at a conference center. Never could go back to sleep. Like, holy tamale. And, you know, I'm a morning person anyway, so like at 6 o'clock, I'm awake. I'm trying to lay there and sleep because the girls don't have to play until later. And then by this time, I think, well, I'm hungry. I need to get breakfast. So we get home late last night, our power's back on, hallelujah. And, you know, I was thinking about this. Those linemen, I know we have AEP, and I know they contract people from out of state coming in. You know, they were out all weekend in the pouring down rain. We got flash floods Saturday here. And we get home last night, we have power, and then we get a weather alert where you can expect 50 to 55 mile an hour winds. So last night it felt like the wind was literally blowing the house down. This morning, same thing. The trees outside are rocking right now. And Ross, you'll probably hear the wind beating the side of the house because I'm watching up on the ridge, and I mean the trees are almost going sideways. But dang it, man, I'm ready for spring. Like, I need some spring weather, and then I can spring turkey hunt a little bit. So that's what's going on in my world. Like, I feel like I'm actually roughing it for a change. I say I want to live off the grid, and that really changes my mindset about it.
See, I'm the opposite. It's really cold here right now. It was 15 below when I woke up, and it's not really supposed to get above 0 today. And we got this for the next few days. But I think on Sunday they're forecasting 40 degrees, and I would really like to get out and get on a couple more bobcats. And I know once that 40-degree hits this time of year, our snow's going to be toast. It'll be all crusted up, and the hunting will be pretty much over. So I'm kind of hoping winter's going to hang on here for just a little bit longer, and I can get a few more bobcat races in. But it's not looking good.
Well, so let's just roll with that. So we've got on Ross Ellwanger from Wisconsin. Now, Ross, I have to ask you. You know I'm a musky fisher. I love to musky fish. And Wisconsin is loaded with lakes. So how close – do you know where the muskie shop is?
Is that in Hayward?
Minocqua, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yep.
How close are you to that?
About an hour and a half.
Really? South? Are you south of it?
We are southwest of that a little bit, yep.
So I have all these grandioso plans. Like in my mind, I'm going to do this every year. Like one of my trips is they have a muskie bash up there in the summer in July.
Okay.
And they have all kinds of guides. You can literally go out and fish with them. They'll take you out and kind of show you tips and tricks and stuff. And, they have huge sales. Like a lot of the supplies that I buy for my muskie stuff come from the muskie shop. Not that I couldn't get it at other places, but like I do a lot of business there with my muskie fishing.
Sure.
So I want to go every year, and every year this is like the fourth year that I've not made it up there. So I don't know, but it's like a 17-hour drive from here, 15, 17.
You said that's in July?
Yeah.
Well, you could do a 2 birds with 1 stone on that trip.
How's that?
Our training season starts July 1st.
We
got some damn good bear running in July here.
Well, so what about the wolves? You got wolves?
Yeah, we do.
Eee, that kind of makes me cringe.
Yeah, knock on wood. We've been fairly fortunate so far. I mean, they're there, and there's something to be aware of. But it makes me cringe too. And honestly, I don't keep very many dogs. I generally have 3 to 5. So if I got a bear treat and wolves come in, I mean, they could wipe me out instantly. And it's like, man, I don't know. It makes me sick thinking about it. So, that is.
But you've never had any run-ins with them?
No, last summer, a couple guys that hunt with us had a couple dogs that got chewed up just a little bit. And I'm thinking it was, the wolves are pretty much trying to get them out of there more so as kill them. And my old dog that's retired now, several years ago, I was up by Hayward and he got chewed up a little bit. But nothing major. No, thankfully.
Well, that's good. Well, hey, we may have to roll. I mean, that would be awesome. So y'all, this is one of the reasons that I had Ross on is because, after the podcast I did with BB and we, talking about cat hunting, Ross and I started texting back and forth about some things. And I thought, hey, this is a great topic. So come on and talk about it. And of course he agreed. So do you guys you get to run off bait? Do you start baiting beforehand, or do you have to start right when season starts?
No, we can start. To be honest with you, I don't even think there used to be a date that we couldn't start baiting, but I don't think there is a date anymore. Generally we start about the 1st of June. And then as we get close, we'll freshen up our baits once a week or something. And then, as we get a week or 2 out, we'll start trying to get them baited 2-3 times a week, to make sure there's a little bit more consistent activity on them. So when July 1st gets here, we're pretty much ready to roll. Everything's established and we're ready to roll. So
is there a limit on the numbers that you can run, or if you have the area? I mean, you're hunting on private or state or federal. How's that work?
No, it's mostly public land. It's a mix of county and state land. Where we hunt kind of borders private, so we do get onto private a little bit. I actually have a cabin that I stay at and do all my hunting out of, and I'm about a mile south of where the public land starts, but I've got a bait right behind my cabin. Then I'll run off several times because I know all the neighbors and stuff. But we're mostly public land.
I got you. Nice. Well, hey, that's definitely a thought. We may chat about that later. That would be great because I've wanted to go to that thing, and it's only a 1 day. I think it's a Saturday and Sunday, but I wouldn't need to go through it 2 days, but that would definitely make the drive worth it.
There's a river that runs. It's kind of the edge of our hunting territory. That's a really excellent muskie fishing. I was actually born and raised on that river and used to muskie fish quite a bit myself. Once I got older, and had kids and stuff, something's gotta give. And for me, it was mostly fishing that took a back seat to everything else. So.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody asks me, he's like, how do you fish? I'm like, our season, I know y'all have heard me say it 100 times. Our season's we get 3 months. We get 90 days a year to hunt, unless you travel, which is one of the reasons that I try to travel, is to keep my dogs a little bit ahead of the game. But like, I can't do anything. Like, I can't do anything until August, September, December. Like, now if I coon hunted, and we can go down that rabbit hole. Like, I used to coon hunt my bear dogs quite a bit and try to keep them in shape, but it just gets aggravating when you're trudging into a tree halfway up the mountain, 5 or 6 dogs and treat on a coon, and you can't be mad at them because, hey, this is what I've done for 3 months out of the year is to keep you in shape, and then other people pack your dogs or whatever, and it just ends up being a headache, to say, for me. Not that mine don't tree coons, because if you listen to my Canada podcast, those dogs have never been on a coon before in their life, and they were yanking them things. Like, where did you come from? Like, but yeah, so we can't do anything, so it allows me to fish. So spring, April, May, I fish June, July, and then after July, I haven't had my boat out since July, about the end of July, sometime in the end of July, because I started hunting again. And with the traveling and stuff, I just don't have time. So that's the only reason I get to fish, is because of our time is not allowed. But all right, well, good. Well, while we're talking about snow, all right, the conversation that Ross and I had was about hunting. We're just talking about it. We're dual hunting. We're multi-purpose, multi-species. So we were talking about running our bear dogs on bobcat, okay? And we're not talking about mountain lion. We're talking about bobcat. So here in the state of Virginia, you can run cats up till February 28th. So it's actually still in right now. And again, with all of my grand ideas, my goal is when bear season goes out the 1st of January, is to give them a week or 2 off, and then to get my young dogs back out and try to start cat hunting them, just to get them trailing, because I hear how much it helps the dogs in the trailing aspect. And here it is, we're over halfway through February, and I've not had time to blink. Like, I haven't had time with traveling with the girls to play volleyball, and the weather has been horrible, and basketball game, like you said, I don't have, like, something's got to get, I can't do it. Like, I cannot make it happen right now. So let's just have that conversation again where everybody can kind of, listen in, and maybe they have some thoughts. But, you were talking about you only hunt the cats in the snow.
Yeah. So our obviously we talked a little bit about bear season. That runs from July 1st, July and August are training seasons. And then September, it kind of floats a little bit when it starts, but we get a month of kill season. It generally starts, the first week or 2 of September, and then runs till the first week or 2 of October. Then we have a break. Our cat season actually starts in November, but our bobcat season is tied to trapping as well. In Wisconsin, deer hunting is such a big thing, and we've got the 9-day gun deer season that runs the week of Thanksgiving. For a hounds guy, you really can't start chasing bobcats until the first week of December. You want to wait till those deer seasons calm down and stuff. Otherwise, you're just going to create conflicts. So a lot of times we have snow. But the last couple years, December has been, we'll get a dusting of snow here or a dusting of snow there. I do try to mess around a little bit. I start itching, and I'll just walk and free cast my dogs if I have to. But to be honest with you, running bobcats on bare ground in Wisconsin it's almost impossible. We have so much swamps and creeks that'll ice over, and so we just get bare ice. Well, a dog trying to track a bobcat on bare ice is like trying to track them through a blacktop parking lot. It just doesn't work very good. I mean, I've gotten some pretty decent chases, and they're doing all right, and then you can tell when they hit that bare ice, and it just about comes to a standstill. So you can get some trailing in, but for the most part, it's not real productive on bare ground. So most of the time we're hunting on snow.
All right. So, and this is one of the questions that I had, and like I said, BB and I talked about it, but the more information you can get from more people, the better decisions you can make. So like we go through spells. We have snow, some in December. Like this year we had a lot more ice than snow. The snow, and then it froze over. Cuts the feet dogs all to pieces. The dogs' feet all to pieces. And I mean, I heard people heard me talk about, like, it put my dogs out of commission for 3, 5, sometimes 7 days. But so if you're running multi-species, like we free cat, like in December, rigging a bear around here, you may, if you run one out of an area, you may rig it going around the mountain, or we have a couple little areas that you may catch 1 or 2 a year coming through there. This year it was none, but we free cast. So we're,
Sure.
So if this is somebody that's listening and you don't understand the language, free casting is you have dogs loose on the ground and you're just walking with them. Like they're free to go and roam and pick up the tracks and trails and whatever they do on their own. Like how do you keep the dogs from, switching over? Like if you're bear hunting and you're, like I said, I would assume your area is like a lot of the other areas that bait. Once the food starts falling, they just leave the baits, and you have to get into the hardwoods to try to start finding the food. So if you're free casting in that area, how do they not run a cat? Or is it to the point where you're going to come across so few of them that it's really not going to matter in the big scheme of things?
I think it's probably a combination of several things. For one thing, like you said, later in the year, when the acorns start dropping, berries are ripe, corn and cornfields, all that. I mean, the dogs have been getting a steady dose of bears for 2 months. So, I mean, they got bears on their mind. I don't think we've got more bears, I believe, than bobcats. I don't think you're probably coming across a lot of bobcats. Although I would assume we free cast in cornfields a lot during kill season to try to find, a lot of them big bears will move into a cornfield and just camp out there. And I know it's not just bears that are in there. I mean, because there's a lot of mice in there. There's a lot of cottontail rabbits in there. So bobcats are frequenting those cornfields as well. And we just don't run them in the summer. I think our scenting conditions are a lot different than other places out west. And I think bobcats are just very hard to run. They don't put off a lot of scent. And I think it's just kind of a combination of everything, like I said, probably the biggest just being the dogs are just so bear-minded by that point in the year. That it just, and not to say that we've never had a dog run a bobcat, but I think I told you in our text messages, I've been bobcat hunting pretty hard for 12 years now and have had dedicated bobcat dogs for 12 years, and I've never had one of my dogs run a bobcat in the summer. We've had other dogs run them randomly, but I think it just happened to be a bobcat that day. It could have been a coyote or a deer or anything for those dogs that ran them. So, yeah, like I said, I think it's just a kind of a combination of things. But we had this, as you know, dogs associate everything. And I think, after a couple years, I think the dogs really start to associate summer with bears. You've been driving up the baits and turning them loose at baits every day. And then also after bear season's over, we get that almost couple month break where the dogs get a chance to decompress. Their mind kind of chills out, they reset. And now all of a sudden, when you take them out hunting again, you've got them in an enclosed box. We don't drive around bobcat hunting with the rig holes open and stuff like you do bear hunting. And I think they just really start to associate those different seasons as well. It's a lot different the way you start out in the morning. You start out driving around looking for tracks versus pulling up to a bait. The dogs know you're going in and checking a bait. They got that excitement like, oh, is it going to turn us loose at this one? And nope, I guess we're going to the next one. So there's just a lot of association involved as well.
So one of the things that we used to teach pretty heavily in the canine world was equipment association. And I'll kind of break that down because what you're saying is so true. Like, you take a dog that you're running narcotics or you're just running detection with. So you're running, explosives or narcotics or whatever. And you put him on a flat collar, you hook the flat collar up and you run him. Well, then you want to take that dog out and you want to run tracks with him. And I know the game department, I know the state guys, like what they do is they take their harness in their hand, and you'll see a lot of the DOC, the Department of Correction guys do this too. They carry their harness out to where they want to start the track and they slip the harness on, which then puts the dog in tracking mode because every time I get this harness on, I get to do this. And one of the things I learned from the guys from Holland is context. Like, when you set your dog up for a certain task, like the context in which you set the dog up tells the dog what behavior you want him to complete. And what you're saying, Ross, is completely different environment. Like, you're going from an open box to staying and having to wait to a closed box. Do y'all use snowmobiles up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we get enough snow. Yes.
Yeah. So that's something else that you're not doing that in the summertime. Like, you're not throwing them on the back of a bike and taking off. So, like, the context in which we set dogs up pretty much after repetition, right? After, like you said, they associate it with, after you do so many repetitions, the dog like, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing. Oh, okay, this is what I'm doing.
Correct.
So, yeah, I completely can understand. Are you looking to have your dog transported to be kept safe, clean, comfortable? Then the ultimate hound transportation experience is with Muddy River. At Muddy River Transport, we understand that your dog's comfort and safety come first. That's why we offer premium dog hauling services that go above and beyond. Why choose us? We use ozone sterilization after every run. We use an advanced ozone machine to thoroughly disinfect and sanitize our van after each journey. This ensures that your dog travels in a clean, hygienic, and safe environment. Top-of-the-line comfort. Our spacious, climate-controlled van is equipped with comfortable, secure spaces designed to keep your dog relaxed and safe during transport. Professional and experienced drivers. Our friendly, trained drivers are passionate about dogs and dedicated to ensuring your dog's journey is smooth and stress-free. Communication is key. Count on us for route updates, dog check-ins, and projected times. We respect your time and your dog's needs. For a stress-free, safe, hygienic transport experience, Book today and give your dog the best ride of their life. We believe our customers' dogs deserve to be treated like we would treat our own. We aren't just dog haulers. We are active houndsmen. When not on the road, we are hunting our own hounds. Travel safe, travel clean, travel comfortable. Every trip, every time with Muddy River Transport. Contact us on Facebook at Muddy River Transport Group or call 1-402-274-7558. So how long, like when you start cat hunting, so you finished your bear season, and one of my buddies out in Idaho, Casey, he says it takes his dogs a couple of weeks to settle down and really start trailing. Now, he's mountain lion hunting. Like he says it takes a couple of weeks for his dogs to settle and really start being track-minded, because for him, it's a lot of difference in the bear odor versus a cat. So does that
Well, how is he going kind of right from one to the other, or does he have a couple month separation as well? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. I think there's a break because, I mean, they're hunting in the spring.
Sure.
And then they have a fall season. So I'm not 100% sure what that break is. I don't know if it's a couple weeks, a month. I don't know.
So I'll be honest. I don't know that I've seen that, or maybe I have, but I've just attributed it because a lot of times when I start hunting in December, it's tough conditions. Mm-hmm. I'm going on just barely enough snow that you can see a track. A lot of times the ice, we've got open water places yet. Things aren't frozen up very good. You can hear the dogs running through the swamp, busting through the ice. It's just really tough conditions. So I think I've associated, a lot of times my first couple, 3 runs of the year don't go very well, aren't very productive, and I think I've attributed it to the conditions, but I could definitely see, a dog running a bear can run with its head up and drift and stuff. Whereas with a cat, they got to straddle that track a lot more to keep it moving. So I think for us, it's probably a combination of a couple things. Just because our early season can be so difficult conditions wise. But it does seem like, after a couple weeks of that hunting on, very marginal conditions, now all of a sudden we get a 2-3 inch snowfall, and now the dogs are really locked in, because you've been pounding it to them on those marginal conditions. And now if you get decent conditions, they're really rolling.
So how much difference do you think the snow makes? Because I know for me, and like I said, I've not cat hunted in them, but bear hunting, it's a game changer really for us.
It can be for us too, but like this year, we did not have very much snow until a week and a half ago. Most of our cat season this year, the snow conditions were horrible. We would get a little bit of snow, and then we would get a cold snap where it would get below 0, and it sucks all the moisture out of that snow. So sometimes I think when it gets like that, you're almost better off to have less snow than more snow, just because that snow is so dry and just takes all the moisture out of it. But if it's in the 20s and you get a snow that's got some moisture in it and you find a fresh track, you can just tell how much it helps. But the problem with like I said, with snow is in the winter is the hunting conditions are so weather dependent. You can go out one morning and think that it's going to be a good morning, and you put your dogs down and it's like, man, what the hell? They're just struggling today. And, I'm not one that I don't watch the barometric pressure and all that stuff. I know you've had guys on your podcast or people on it that studied a lot closer than I do and probably have some answers for those things. I just know my experience of, hunting my entire life, and some mornings I think it's going to be great, and it's just not, for whatever reason.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I wished it would never snow during bear season, honestly, because people are catching bear that they normally wouldn't catch. That's it. I'm not going to say it makes it easy, but it definitely makes it easier. Like I said, the track's there. You know
which way
it's going, right? And if you're a persistent and you're a good hunter, like you can help the dogs a lot, and you shouldn't have to, but you can.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about the temperature and the dry snow, and if it gets down at 20. So I've had several professional trackers, anywhere people from guys that track man, well, yeah, whether it be for law enforcement or the poaching side of it, they tell me that once you get below freezing, that there is a time limit on tracks. So I struggle with this because I know through my experience that, and I'll just give you an example, that I went in hunting one day and I found some tracks that were froze up. Bear tracks now, okay? Found some tracks that were froze up. So I don't know who had told me this. I probably want to contribute it to Dale Cameron, but I can't be 100% sure because I don't quite remember. But I decided to go on and go hunting and come back by there after lunch and see if those dogs. And I was hunting my blue dogs, Belle and Clyde. There was two of the dogs that I had, and my old Frosty dog. So I come back after lunch at some point, and Clyde, my Cameron male, he'd stick his nose in that track that showed no interest that morning at 8:30, 9 o'clock, whatever time it was when I come back, showed no interest. Come back by there, and he stuck his nose in it and started trailing that track. And he ended up trailing that track it didn't go far. And I think that was part of the success of it. He probably didn't go 300-400 yards around the side of a mountain, got up underneath the ledge, jumped the bear right out of the bed, right off the mountain because the bear had been laid down and treed. I mean, I got to hear the whole thing. Like it was, trail, and then boom, jump right off the mountain tree. So I struggle with the concept that, once, and I know what happened. Like I know enough about scent and odor that it froze up, and as it warmed up during the day, those molecules released, and Clyde was able to put enough of that structure together to be able to trail it, to recognize it and trail it to an end. Again, I think if that track would have been 3 or 4 miles long, we wouldn't have been successful, but it wasn't. So I hear guys have told me that if it gets below freezing, that there is a very limited time frame for tracking. Ross, what's your experience with that, and what can you add to that or take away? Because you're saying it's minus what now? The 15?
Right now, yeah, it's about 15 below.
Yeah.
I would say 0 degrees is pretty much my cutoff on when I'll hunt, and that's for a number of reasons. I can hunt almost every day if I want to, so I always figure, why the hell would I go out when it's miserable? But I have also seen that the dogs seem to struggle a lot more, below 0 as well. That's not to say, I mean, I know I talked to Paul Laney quite a bit out in Maine, and I know he's killed several cats this year, and dogs had good chases at quite a bit below 0. And I think I killed a cat this year when it was below 0, and the dogs did pretty well. That's just kind of a rule of thumb, but I see a lot exactly what you're talking about. A track in the morning, you're like, man, what the heck? These dogs don't want to take it, but you can come back. The sun gets up. I suppose, like you said, it's releasing stuff, and you can come back a few hours later, and the dogs can take that track. It's almost like it's a different track than what you had tried a few hours ago. but I just think there's so many factors, and like I said, I don't know. Wind. If it's windy, we got a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind. I think that can make things completely different than if it was a calm day.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there's a lot with snow. With snow, there's a lot of factors that go into it. I usually expect my dogs to try to take a day-old bobcat track. Not that I want them to, just like you said, yeah, if I knew that cat only went 300-400 yards, I'd say have at it. But a lot of times, especially big toms, you're going to be 10 miles behind that cat, and that cat's going to get somewhere where, whether it be a deer yard or whatever, or on some bare ice that we're going to end up wasting a few hours trying to trail something that's not jumpable. But I want to see my dogs at least try to take a day-old track. That's the kind of cold trailing dogs I want. In the summer, that's, I figure in the summer our cutoff is about 12 hours on a bear, with good conditions, not being super humid, not being super hot. I want a dog in the summer that's going to take a 12-hour-old bear track pretty consistently. So I think the winter can help you a lot, but I think the snow can also hurt too. But just like you said, with bears in the snow, when we have an inch or 2 inches of snow here, that's when I love to cat hunt the most, because I think if you got good cat dogs, you can be productive. But once we start getting 6+ inches of snow, now all of a sudden everybody can catch cats and everybody's a cat hunter. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a lot the same what you said with bears. I like to be challenged, but also I don't want it to be a layup for everybody either.
Yeah. Like I said, I know, like, scientifically speaking, every degrees below 32, which is freezing, puts a time limit on your molecule structure, because that's what sin is. And it, everybody knows that when you put something in the freezer, it shrinks. Boom.
Yep.
When you put stuff outside, it expands. And if it expands too much, then that molecule structure, it literally becomes distorted, where your dogs are not going to be able to recognize it, which is just what you're talking about. In the summertime, like, humidity is the worst thing for us, which is moisture. And at the same time, moisture is good for dogs because they can take it in. But when there's more moisture in the air, then the dogs can actually breathe out, which is the moisture. That's how they breathe. That's how they sweat, through panting. It's just counterproductive. But in the wintertime, like, you take a 20-degree, let's just say it's 25 during the day, and then at nighttime it drops down into the high teens, and then the next day you go back up into the mid 20s. Well, at no point in time has it ever broke freezing. So, like, I would love to know how, like, I would like to see a track, I know that I come through here and in 30 minutes I come back and there's a track there, and then come back the next morning and actually put my dogs in it and say, okay, this track I know for a fact is, 13 hours old. Mm-hmm. Let's see how I would love to be able to test those, which, just don't get those opportunities. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I see around here that happens with us is, one of the areas that I hunt, there's a creek, a pretty good sized creek that runs parallel to the road for miles. And those bear will come up out of the creek and cross the hardtop, and you'll see tracks in the hardtop. Or if it's a fresh enough track, you'll see like somebody drug a mop across the road, right?
Wet track. Yep.
Yeah. So, but those tracks in the road, and I was actually thinking about this coming home today, because I knew you and I were going to talk. Like, you put a track down that's wet, and it's below freezing. Okay. So let's just say it's in the 20s, and that track tomorrow looks the same as it did today, and you put your dogs out on it, and your dogs are running around going, oh, okay. we've actually done it. Like we've actually done. I've participated in this nonsense of a behavior because you're thinking, what's wrong with my dogs? What's wrong with my dogs? But because
I've seen that in the summer too, though.
With the
when it's really humid, so that track will stay there for a long time. Like we've found exactly what you're saying, crossing the road, like, oh hell yeah, this is gonna be awesome, and you put your dogs down on it and they look at you like, dude, there ain't nothing here. And you're like, unreal. But you'll leave and come back several hours later and that track looks exactly the way it did when you found it. So then you're like, all right, well, maybe this isn't as fresh. But then there's other days where a bear can leave that same wet track and within minutes it's evaporated and gone.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was saying. Like we put on a track one day about 1 o'clock in the road, just like what we're talking about. And the dogs, they acted. I mean, we were all scratching our head, like, what in the world? Come back by the next morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, that same track in the same place looks exactly the same. So it's so deceiving. It's deceiving, and that's why we use dogs, because their sense of smell is so superior to ours. And when they're saying it's not here, like, okay, it's not here, even though my eyes are lying to me. I see it, but that odor has no longer existed. So, yeah, I struggle with some of that stuff, especially in the snow. Like, I'd really like to know, like, how, like, each temperature, how it affects it. And again, I know we're looking at everything. I mean, you're looking at the barometric pressure and you're looking at the wind. And, I don't know who wrote I read a book one time, and I don't know which one it was. And Ron, you may know this, but somebody had labeled all 4 species of the treeing mammals that we hunt with hounds, and it was bear, lion, coon, and bobcat. And whoever had wrote this book had said that the cat was the hardest the scent was the hardest to pick up, to tree out of all the animals. Is that the same? Would you say that's accurate, or would you say that that's?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate. So I think if we have really good conditions in the winter and we've got 6 inches of snow, you find a fresh bobcat track that is from that night. I think that cold trailing is easier cold trailing than a bear off a bait in the summer for a number of reasons. For one thing, like we've already talked about, in the snow, the direction that thing's going. You're putting the dog right exactly on the track. The dogs use their eyes a lot. I know my dogs, if I get them out of the box and put them on a cat track, they'll stick their nose in it and they acknowledge that that's a cat, and they won't even put their nose down until, and they'll be screaming almost like it's hot, until it intersects like a deer track or something, and they'll put their nose in it then to kind of verify what their eyes are telling them. But so I think dogs use their eyes a lot to cold trail in the snow, probably more than people realize. And some dogs that aren't smart enough to use their nose in conjunction with their eyes, I think that can be a bad thing. In fact, I've seen my dogs do this before, where the cat track will intersect a coyote track or something, and they're so amped up wanting to run that they don't even put their nose down to check. They just assume that now they switch to a coyote track, and they don't even realize it until they get a couple 100 yards. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, wait, this ain't right. And now they're trying to come back to find the cat track. And I mean, there's a lot of things that can play into that too. You got rammy dogs or strange dogs trying to compete with each other or whatever. But versus the summer, you're letting a dog go into a bait and you don't know which direction that bear went. You don't know if it came in and walked out at same tracks. But then now once you got that jumped, a lot of dogs can run a bear and do a good job on a bear. But I've seen, especially dogs that are used to running bears and stuff. Now all of a sudden you try to put them on a bobcat or something, and the circling game that, they really struggle. So I would say that is very true. And like I said, running running a bobcat in the summer here is almost impossible. But you put your dogs on a bear and they just absolutely scream on it. So I would say there is a lot of truth to that. Well, and a bobcat, a huge bobcat's 40 pounds. A little bear is twice that big, at least, so it kind of only makes sense that there would be a lot more scent involved as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I've treated a few cats on accident over my career. And, looking back at those races now, when I was younger, it took me a lot. It didn't dawn on me when the dog kept making circles and tree, and then they make a circle. Like, it didn't dawn on me what was going on until I got to the tree and actually seen what it was. But, and I don't know that I've run a cat in a while. I've seen several. Like, I've seen a couple during August, September, when I'm rigging across the road in front of me or whatever. But I don't know that I've had a race in a while. And it's funny because the dogs that I treat all those cats, not all, but those cats with, my dad had 2 barn cats, and my dog lots were above the barn. So I'd let my pups run loose pretty much. And my pups would get to running those barn cats up in the loft, and they'd be treed on the ladder going up in the loft. And every one of those pups that I did that with ended up treeing it. Yeah, started on cats, or just treat a bobcat or 2 or 3. So I learned real quick. I'm like, I can't do that. But if I didn't have so many dogs, nobody in this area really cat hunts like that. Like I said, there's a couple guys from another group that's been hunting a little bit. But like, if I didn't have so many dogs, I wouldn't mind to have 1 or 2 just strictly cat dogs. I've got too many dogs. Like, I can't have any more. Yeah. So that's a big thing with me. So as far as the bears and the cat hunting, you don't have really that many issues. And I mean, you're using the same 4 or 5 dogs to do both with. And I kind of see, like, the difference in an environment, like, summertime to wintertime, snow, switching over your equipment. Basically, the boxes are changing. The style in which you hunt is changing. Like, I can see all that playing in to how the dogs actually do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And, one thing we haven't talked about, but like in a perfect world, so we're talking about switching back and forth. In a perfect world, I would want to start a puppy on bobcats. Get them running bobcats before I go on to bears, because just like we've said before, the circling game, a dog gets used to running a bear and it's really hard for him to switch. But if you can start that puppy out on that circling game, less scent, I think they transition to it a lot easier. I've got 2 puppies right now that are 7 months old. And I've probably had them on 12 or 15 cat races this winter, and I'm excited for that, because now I get to go into bear season having started them out on cats. But that being said, I've got 2 3-year-olds right now that are both really, really nice cat dogs and really nice bear dogs. They turned 9 months old when bear season started. So they had a full bear season before I went to cat hunting. And it did take me, I don't know, probably a good month to get them really throttled down and locked in on cats. But I always figure, I can and I will hunt enough to make up for it. But I think anybody that hunts both would probably tell you their preference would be to start their dogs out on cats before. But that being said, if my dogs are old enough to hunt when bear season starts, they're going to go. I'm not just going to leave them sit at home for an extra 3 or 4 months just for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you have to take the opportunity when it's there. So yeah, and I could see the benefits. Like, if that's what I was doing, I would definitely want to start my dogs on the harder species to get that trail mindedness, or to get them where they, where I or get them started in the right direction before I took them to the different.
Yep.
I get that, 100%.
Yep.
All right, so if you guys don't know, Ross also hunts bird dogs. He's got the German short hairs, and we had a little short conversation before we started recording. So, Ross, I'm gonna throw this out there. So, I believe that cross training. I believe that anything that you can learn in different realms of any type of any discipline of dog hunting or training, any form or fashion, can always help you become better. So, what is something that you do with both sets of your dogs? So, you're using it for your bird dogs and you're using it for your hounds. What is some type of training or some type of regimen or some type of something that you're actually using, incorporating in both sets of dogs?
So I think I'm going to go back to something we kind of touched on already, and that's how dogs associate everything. With my bird dogs, I do a lot of testing and field trials with them. One thing that I test my bird dogs in is NAVDA, which is the North American Versatile Hunting Dog Association. And there is several aspects of that test. Like there's a field portion where the dog just goes and hunts and finds a bird, points it. But then there's also a tracking portion. And one of the main, probably the main thing that makes you successful in both of those is creating that association. So the dog knows the task. You don't like for instance, if you're in the track portion of that test, I don't want to unsnap my dog and have that dog break off into a search like it would in the field portion. I want that dog to understand when I unsnap that leash and let it go, that there is a track that it needs to follow. And thankfully I've had bird dogs now for 11 years, and I train a lot with some professional trainers, and everything you do with bird dogs, it's all association. Whether it be force fetching or a dog standing still on its birds. And I think that has really helped me in the hound with my hounds, to try to create those associations for them. For instance, when you're talking e-collars, you're talking e-collars with some guy, a newbie or whatever, what's the first thing you tell them? Well, don't just put the e-collar on and start frying the dog. And why is that? Well, you're telling them that because if you start frying the dog and it doesn't know what's associated with that, it could mean anything to that dog. It could think that it's getting fried because you're there. It could mean it's getting fried because it's standing on a deck, or so everything is creating associations. And I do that. I start that really early with my puppies. I start letting them run around in the yard, and I start associating the tone with them coming to me, and then I'll transition that to a little nick if they don't listen to me. So I just really try to start creating those associations very early on. I think it's good that a dog learns what no means, because I think that's helped me break my dogs off a game a lot quicker, because I do, like I said, do free casting with them. I'll just take them for walks, and all my dogs will just be running around, and if we happen to come across a deer track or something, that puppy walks up to it and I'll be like, no. And just little things like that, I think, go a long ways. Versus 20 years ago, before I knew any better, you'd have a dog and dogs run deer on you a couple times or whatever, and you'll see a deer cross the road and be like, all right, well, I'm gonna get that sumbitch out, put him on a leash and lead him up to that thing and just fry him. Well, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'm not sure if the dog got the correct association. It was just by dumb luck. It wasn't by anything that I did. So yeah, I think association is huge.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I'm 100% with you. And like the canine training has taught me more patience. Like, some dogs, they click right along, they get it. And then some dogs, when I'm brought dogs from different agencies, like I may or may not have picked those dogs. A lot of times I've not been there and I've tested them and done this and done that. Then they bring me the dog and like, okay, now I need you to get him imprinted. I need you to put, odor on him. I need you to do this and do that. And then by the first day, I'm like, oh man, like, all right, it's gonna take me a good while to get this dog. Or all right, I've got to change up some things with this dog. So, I say this all the time, Rome wasn't built in a day, and I've learned that dog training is not built in a day. So I am more about the process. Like, I'm going to give my dogs all the opportunity to succeed through the association, through the setup, through the 5 minutes a day that I'm working on loading or leading or, whatever I'm doing at the house in the off season. Like, that makes my life so much easier in the woods. So yeah, I'm with you. Like, it makes things so much easier when you can understand what the preparation to prepare for the preparation to prepare for the loading or, the recall. Like I feel like recall is one of the most important things that we do with our dogs across the board. So I spend a lot of time on recalls, and I've got a bunch of I've got two 4 months old and a 6 month old out here now that I'm working on. And up until this point, those dogs could be anywhere around the house. I mean, they could be up on the hill over at the pond. They could be down in the neighbor's cow lot. They could be down at the barn with Chloe. And if I whistle, I'm telling you, those dogs are coming at 100 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. Well, within the last week, that 100 mile an hour has become 40 miles an hour. And one of them piddle farting around trying to figure out what else is going on. So I'm going to have to switch up what I'm doing. The distractions are becoming an issue. It used to be no distractions weren't an issue. Now the distractions, but they're getting a little bit of age. They're getting more curious.
Independence.
They're changing. So I've got to change my style. But yeah, so I agree. Like I said, when you associate things, and it's simple, like the dogs catch on pretty quick with that stuff. Like, let's talk about a simple association. Dropping your tailgate. When I let my dogs out, I don't lead any of them from the pen. I let them out, and I'm able to do that because where I live. I let them out. I'm getting my collars together, or I'm loading stuff in the truck. I let them clean out. And when I drop that tailgate, most of the time I can't get the doors open on the dog box before 3 or 4 of them's trying to plow in the back of the truck. I haven't said a word. Like, I haven't said a word to them. It's like, tailgate drops, we're going, let's go, bam, they're in there. So that's the type of association that, that's one of the simple examples of it. But
and dogs read your body language. I mean, my dogs know when I get up in the morning, I think just from my body language on whether we're going hunting that day or I got to stay home and work. I think they can feel that energy, and when I got to stay home and work, I feed them. They're right back on their dog beds and going to sleep. But I think, when it's hunting time, they're like, "Oh, Dad's excited this morning." Something fun's about to happen. And they know it. And I always try to keep things black and white with my dogs. No means no for this. Just like it means it tomorrow, it's never, I'll let you get away with that today. Like, nope, everything's black and white. And I think the dogs fall into your system. I generally, knock on wood, don't have many issues with my dogs running off game and stuff. Not to say it's never happened, and maybe it'll happen the next day I go out. But I try to keep things always black and white. In the summer, if my dogs did run a bobcat or something, not that I would, fry the hell out of them or anything, but that wouldn't be acceptable. That's not what we're here for today. I just try to always keep things black and white. And I know some people in the summer that will see a bobcat cross the road or something, and I'll just let my dogs run this today instead of a bear. And I suppose some track time, if it's either that or no track time, it has some benefits. But I know me personally, if I saw a bobcat cross the road, even if I hadn't got my dogs out that day, I would just keep driving, because that's not what we're there for. So I think just keeping things as black and white as possible really helps the dog too, because they know what to expect as well on a daily basis.
Consistency is key. Consistency. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. Like, like you can't do one thing today and another thing tomorrow. It needs to be fairly the same. And I'm not saying your regiment has to be the same, but like the no has to have a meaning. No means no. Today, tomorrow, the next day, next month. No means no. And I'm not going to tell you 5 times. I'm going to tell you once. And if we can't come to an understanding, then the next time, like I'll have no where like I can take care of it. And
consequence.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one of the things I was talking about. Like my pup's running the neighbor's cars up the hill. Golly, man, I can't believe that's carried over from 6 years ago to a female that I bred, and now her pups are doing the same. It's the same. I had not had them. I mean, none, and I didn't have them where I could stop it. Like I didn't have a mechanism in place to change that behavior. Well, now I do, and I just haven't had that opportunity. But no means no. Like I don't want you doing this today, tomorrow, and the next day. So anyway.
Yep. And obviously all dogs are different. Some dogs you tell them no one, just like kids or anybody, you tell a dog no once and it might not ever try to do that again. Whereas the next dog's like, I'm going to see what I can get away with today, and everything in between. Some of them just pretend like they don't hear you. Well, I know that's not the case.
That's right. They just did not want to hear you.
Exactly.
That's like when your wife's saying, "Did you not hear what I said?" "No, I was listening to TV. I heard you. I just don't want comments."
Yeah, exactly. In one ear and out the other.
That's right. Well, Ross, I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on, spending your morning with me. Anything you want to leave us with?
No, it's been fun. Thanks for having me. I'm always I love these conversations. I could talk about this stuff nonstop, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for helping us teach, train, and learn. Do you like to be outdoors like I do? If so, unlock the wilderness with onX Maps. It is your ultimate guide to exploring, hunting, and conquering the great outdoors. With detailed maps, real-time tracking, and exclusive access to public and private lands, onX Maps is your key to adventure. Discover the possibilities and never get lost again with onX. So subscribe today using the promo code K920, letter K, number 9, 20, and know where you stand.